Good morning, take two, and here we are on Wednesday the 25th of November, and we've been doing vlogs. It's not just me, there's a couple of colleagues. We've been doing some stuff to raise awareness for men's physical and emotional health through November, and you may notice I'm not in the River Clyde this morning, although we did walk down to the River Clyde this morning, but we took an executive decision not to go in the Clyde because the water was gey high and the currents just looked as if they would have dragged us down to Crisford. Crisford being the neighbouring village. So good morning, Tina. Right, so this morning I was thinking about holding back, and I guess this doesn't just mean for men, but it can be for women as well. But men do tend to hold back. I find we as men tend to hold back quite a bit from expressing ourselves or communicating effectively. Good morning, Stuart. Good morning, everyone. I explained why I'm not in the Clyde because the current was so bad this morning. So I'm still half asleep. I've not had that cold temperature to wake me up yet. So holding back. So what got me thinking about this was, again, my hike at the weekend, my hike on Sunday. Myself and Nick met up with 3 women, and one of them was called Claire, and I got some shots, I got some pictures of the 3 women. I got pictures of us all, but I got some individual pictures of the three women, which was Julie, Claire and Karen. Karen was the one that fell in the water. Claire was the mountain leader that has agreed to, well, I might be speaking prematurely, we've not had a bigger discussion, but Claire's going to be joining, scouting about and moving the business forward a little bit. So Claire, Julie and Karen, and I took individual pictures of each of the 3 girls to send to them. And anyway, I took this picture of Claire and I sent it to her messenger, and I wanted to say alongside the picture, I really think this is a lovely picture and I think it captures you really well, and I feel that it's really caught you where you're at, transitioning, first hike of the season type thing, the winter season. And I never wrote any of that. I never wrote any of the kind words. I just sent the picture, JPEG, ping. So I held myself back from saying that. Now, Claire got the picture and immediately wrote back, I absolutely love that picture. I really do. I really love that picture. What an excellent photo you took of me, and it really captures how I'm feeling right now, which is about how excited I am about the winter coming and getting out in the mountains in the winter. And I then wrote back, I goes, you're not going to believe this, but I wanted to, good morning, Kirsten, I wanted to write that and held myself back from doing it. Now, there would be no way that I held myself back on the risk of me maybe sounding flirtatious or anything like that, because Claire's in a same-sex relationship. So when I knew that about her very, very early on in our talking, so tick, it's not that she's going to think you're coming on to her, because I'm not. So what was it that stopped me? What was it that stopped me from holding myself back, right? So I've been thinking about that. I've been thinking about that a little bit, right? Now, if I go then into like a larger conversation around about the time that I've spent with Nick. So Nick, for those of you that don't know, is an 80-year-old man whose wife has got Alzheimer's, and he had to reframe and refocus his life a little bit because the pain of not having his wife around was causing him a massive amount of discomfort. And I really aligned with that story because I've been estranged from my daughter for such a long time, a couple of years, playing a game with master game players, master chess players, right? You're never going to win, so you have to let it go. And I had to refocus and reframe my life. And funnily enough, hiking and long distance walking is what I found, right? So then the questions come up, well, why did you wait years rather than minutes or months? You knew you were in discomfort. You knew that you were in emotional pain. You knew that you had to reframe and refocus. So what was it that held you back from doing that, right? So the way I'm looking at it, and just bear with me, is when we embark on a new business, a new relationship, a new mindset even, you know, changing the channel from watching the debilitating habitual programs and narratives and scripts and schemas of our mind, that can be of discomfort. My wife has Alzheimer's and that's very painful, right? You're watching that. Now, you can't just get a magic pill for that. You can't just cure Alzheimer's effectively, instantaneously. So he then lived with that for a number of months, Nick did, and then reframed and refocused. Whereas Ross, separation, attempting to get access, fighting a very difficult situation. The space of time in that was years. And then I went, I need to refocus. I need to reframe and refocus my narrative and move and fly in a different direction, right? So the period of time between knowing you're in pain and making the move towards a more expansive, happier, more joyful, more fruitful way of being throws up a lot of questions. Well, why do we wait? Why do we wait months, years? Why the second we know that something's causing us discomfort, do we not just make the change, right? So for me, it's like this. I look at every time I go hiking, every mountain, every hike I go on, and this is just for me. I'm sure that you can translate this onto any other situation, right? But when I go hiking, every time I go a hike and every mountain that I go up, every mountain feels different. Some are gentlemen and some are monsters, okay? Some of the mountains that you inhabit feel scary and feel dangerous. Some of them are very passive and very rolling, and the walk is very different. And I have now experienced different mountains in different weathers, and sometimes gentlemen can be monsters, and sometimes those monsters become friends, right? Now, for me, every time I go out, it's like a pilgrimage I go on, and it feels like a pilgrimage. And learning from Nick, it's like having my own Yoda, right? It's like he's taught me so much around about hiking. But one of the things he said is, since he set off on his journey, this has really inspired me actually, and this is what's inspired this conversation this morning, is that he cannot believe that he set out with a 3-year goal. His 3-year goal was to raise £10,000 for Alzheimer's charity, okay? He wanted in 3 years to collect £10,000 for Alzheimer's charity. He's been at it 3 months and he's burst £10,000. So that's leaving him, over 2.5 years. So he's like, he genuinely cannot believe the amount of support, the amount of people that he's met, the way the journey's going. But he would never have known that had he never stepped out or not stepped out of his current narrative, okay? And that's the point. We'll never know what's round the corner if we just keep watching the same channel. So for me, when I go a hike, and this is just for me, I'm just sharing a story with you, I feel it's like a pilgrimage because every mountain's different. Some are friends, some are foes, some are gentlemen, some are monsters, right? And for me, a pilgrim when I go, it's more about stopping than going. So although I'm hiking, it's more about stopping and pressing pause on my normal life, right, than it is about moving. So I stop my own life and step out of a familiar world so that I can look and listen and reflect and change. You know, I start to strip away all that's unnecessary. And when I start to strip away all the stuff that's unnecessary to me, i.e., you know, the nonsense, the house, the familiar stuff, right? And all the stuff that's kind of quite warm and cosy. This chair's really comfortable. Whereas when you're hiking up the side of the mountain with, 40-mile-an-hour winds, with rain and hail hitting off the side of your face, it's not quite as comfortable, but it makes you feel that you're alive. And I'm going to use the word unshamefully, God, okay, my higher power. So when I strip away all that's unnecessary, the chairs, the stuff, the cars, all this stuff, when I strip away all that and I'm on the side of a mountain, it allows me to hear the voice of God. It allows me to hear a voice of reason. You could call that intuition. You could call that force. You could call that whatever you want. Truthfully, it doesn't really make any difference what you call it. But sometimes what you've got to do, or what we've got to do, is we've got to stop what we're currently doing in our life. We've got to stop what we're doing in our current life in order to take a step back and start to hear and see what's really going on. Now, the physical challenge comes first for me because my knees and hips and my ankles are absolutely broken, right? The psychological battle that I face when I'm hiking up the side of hills is just the inner critic. Oh, you're not going to do it. And, like I'm hiking with Nick, and Nick's generally always about 20 or 30 feet in front of me because I'm just like an old kind of plodder. But every time that the inner critic comes in and starts kind of banging away in my ear, I look at Nick and I'm like, he's 80 years old. If he can do it, I can do it, right? And I just keep on rolling with it. So when I go hiking, I feel physically challenged. I feel psychologically challenged. And in a lot of ways, I feel spiritually challenged by the critics' voices that are crucifying me. Well, why am I doing this? What do I want to learn? What voice do I want to hear in my life? Where do I go from here? It's like this constant battle. So when we have got these critical voices going on, it's no wonder that we never just get out the house, or we never leave the relationship that we're in, or we stay in the same job that we're on, and it seems easier to go around moaning and complaining and bitching and whining than it does about actually stepping out and moving forward. Because each time that we step out and we move forward, we get challenged by the part of us that doesn't want this reality to change. There's a part of us wants this reality to stay exactly as it is. So when I began psychologically doing this, I felt really overwhelmed and I felt like a failure. Today I'm sort of 90 days after my mountain leadership course, and I feel a connection to grace that's definitely been absent in my life, and I feel a really unusual kind of happiness and an incredible lightness of being. At times, as crippled as I have been walking on the mountains, right, I have danced, like last week I danced down the side of Ben Nevis, right, like I just danced down the side of it. My feet were knackered, I was wearing a new pair of boots, and I was skipping so much so, it was absolutely hilarious, right, my inner gay, channeling my inner gay, right, I came off the path. You could actually see it if you look at it on the relive, and I come down through the grass, and I felt like that woman in the Hills Are Alight with the Sound of Music, my two arms at the side of me as I ran down through the grass. And it's amazing. These kind of things are absolutely fantastic. And where I'm going with this is none of us know what's round the corner. But what we do know is that we will miss 100% of the shots that we don't take. And sometimes we're not taking those shots because we've become habitualized to a reality, to a narrative, to a comfort zone, okay, that we don't want to stretch the boundaries. We've created this container around us that we think is safe, okay, but in actual fact, the paradox of that is it's crippling us, it's disabling us, and we'll only truly know what our capabilities are when we step out of that, right? Some of the best moments that I've had in the last year have been encounters with complete strangers. And there's definitely, for me, something about the mountains that makes people disclose their deepest thoughts to complete strangers. And I think it's partly the physical setting and the fact that we're walking. I think the fact that we're walking allows us just to kind of focus on the walk while the subconscious thought bubbles pop up and we just let them go. And we're not looking at each other, but we're looking ahead. I'm questioning why, when we're both, am I finding strangers just disclosing stuff that happened in their childhood or what's currently happening in their life? And that gives me permission to do the same. And every time I come out off a mountain and come back to my current reality, I've reframed and refocused and feel much more equipped to start a new week. So, stop for breath. What is it that's holding us back? Not necessarily just from, if I rewound this to the beginning, for me, I held back from saying to a new friend, Claire, love this picture of you. You look absolutely fantastic. I think it's a great shot and I think it really captures you. Knowing that I wouldn't be flirting with her, knowing that it wasn't sexual, knowing that it was coming from a place of genuine compassion, I knew she was in a same-sex relationship. I knew she doesn't like guys. So what stopped me from doing that? And then she come back and went, wow, love this picture. You've really captured me. And I wrote back, you're not going to believe it. I really wanted to say that to you, and stopped myself, right? So I held myself back just in a small interaction like that. The microcosm. We're inhabiting this macrocosm, this huge field, right? This huge planet that's full of endless possibilities. Yet we choose to very tightly construe this world through a lens which we've created that's safe. What is it that's holding us back? What is it that's stopping us from refocusing, reframing, getting the help you need? If you struggle to lose weight on your own, go to Slimming World. If you struggle losing weight on your own, try a class, try doing it with a friend. If you struggle getting out and going for a walk, give somebody a phone. If you're in Lanark and you struggle getting out and going for a walk, just message me. I'm always out walking. I'm happy to partner up with people. It's a great laugh, right? So I'm a week away from Men's Mental Health and looking at what is it that's stopping us and what is it that's holding us back from making a new set of choices that's going to change the channel on your mindset, TV set. You're watching BBC Horror Story, BBC Poverty Story, BBC Defo one for the podcast, Ross and Libby. Podcasting Friday, Anne. Thumbs up, podcast Friday morning, 11 o'clock. We're doing it. Mindset. It's like a TV set. You've got hundreds. Back in the day when I was away, right, and got the old hand. I was talking about this the other night there. I got the wee television. It was black and white. That had like a round aerial at the back. And man, I thought I was like, wow, I've got this black and white telly. My mum and dad's got a colour telly now with 3 channels, and they've gave me the black and white one, and I could sit and watch the OK Corral on a Sunday on my own in black and white, But I remember Channel 4 becoming alive. I remember Channel 5 becoming alive. Now we've got Netflix, we've got Disney Plus, we've got Sky, we've got hundreds and hundreds of channels. Our mindset, we've got hundreds of channels. Whatever you focus on creates your reality, right? If you're focusing on BBC Heartbreak, focus on ITV Joy. It's really, really hard, but that's where you get help. It's where you ask somebody. Like, I even thought there's a local gym up here, which I'm going to promote, Curtis Brothers, right? Like, some of you will remember going into record shops was a really daunting thing to do back in the day. I find phoning and getting a personal trainer a bit of late night Hammer House of Horror, love it. Like, late night Hammer House of Horror. Stuart, channel Hammer House of Horror. Is that what you're watching? Are you watching scarcity? Are you watching poverty? Are you watching anger? Are you watching upset? Are you watching unhappiness? Right? You're watching a channel. Are you watching angry at my ex? Angry at whatever? Right? Don't know, nearly came out my mouth there. Change the channel. Now, as I said, I was a bit daunted. Local guys up here, Curtis Brothers. Then I'm doing a bit of promotion for them. Don't know if they would do the same back, but there you go. I don't know them, but I've went to contact them a couple of times and say, I'm looking for a personal trainer. I'm looking for a personal trainer. And because I can't motivate myself to change different bits of my body that I want to change, that they're not going to change by doing 13, 14 mile hikes. My legs are all right. It's my upper body. I've not got any strength in my upper body. I never really have. Cycling and BMXing was my thing. My legs have always been pretty strong. My upper body's not. How am I going to change that? I'm going to change that by addressing it. But how long have I been talking about it versus actually doing it? I've been talking about it for ages. Just need to pull the trigger. So, what's stopping you from pulling the trigger? What's stopping you? What's holding you back? What holds us back sometimes from relationships or love is because we've been hurt. What holds us back from disclosing things about ourselves is because our trust has been broken. What holds us back? I could go on and on and on, right? And because I'm in the house and I'm not in the Clyde, I've been blethering for ages, and I'm thinking that might get me off the hook. I don't need to do one tomorrow. It's just some thoughts, critical thinking, metacognition. Let's think about how we're thinking. What is it that's holding us back? Is it fear? Is it fear? Is it fear of failure? Is it fear of showing up? Is it fear of going out there? As I was making this coffee this morning, right? As I was making this coffee this morning, and I was going to, will I do this live because I'm not, I was questioning, will I do this live because I'm in the house and I'm not in the river? It's a nice wee 10 minutes to connect and do it in the river, blah, blah, blah. And this was a lesson this morning. I have, since I started doing this back in April, which was a challenge from a colleague at work because I actually don't like doing this. I'll never watch my videos back. I don't like listening to myself. Like if Anne Hughes is still listening, Anne Hughes asked me a question, how did it sound to you? And I just went, great. I never listened to it, Anne. Because I don't like listening to my voice, right? I'm not doing this. But I get challenged. I get something to say it. But the flip side of that is, loads of folk give me positive feedback, right? It's great. But you also get negative feedback. You also get criticism. And I've had guys I've known, right? Yeah, fucking stoter and you're this and you're that and fucking defriending you and sending you fucking at 3 o'clock in the morning when they're clearly full of it. Messages, who do you think you are? You remember when you were full of it? I do remember when I was full of it, but I'm not full of it now. I'm in my bed at 3 o'clock in the morning, you're messaging me, I'm not messaging you. But what I was thinking this morning when I was doing this, making myself this coffee, was I get quite a lot of criticism. And I laughed, I never realised. We all worry too much about what other people think. Ego, absolutely, 100%. Hello, Davina Gray. So there's somebody else messaging me. Hope it's criticism. But as I was making this coffee this morning, and I get quite a lot of criticism, I was like, goodness, I had such a fragile ego that I used to not like criticism, and I used to like. I can still be a wee bit arrogant, and so okay, I can still be a big bit arrogant, right? But and I can make fun of that person calling me a stoter. But the truth of it, I'm actually like a whole lot better with criticism than I was 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Like, criticism's actually okay. And it's like, I can now look at the criticism and go, is that valid? Or is that not valid? Is that me they're criticising? Or is that them? And when you break it down and you go, yeah, they had a very valid point there, actually. So that worked better if I take on board what they've said. Do I agree with the manner in which they've said it in? No, it's really attacking. But maybe that's the only way they can communicate at the moment is through attacking language. And that's all right. So I would never have known that I'm now okay with criticism, or I'm much better with criticism, shall I say, than what I would have been 5 years ago, because I had such a little fragile ego. I was such a little fragile ego, kind of, oh no, don't criticise me. It's okay. And why is that became okay? Because I'm so much less critical of myself. And yeah, if we don't step out, we're never going to know. So what's holding you back? We're in a time that's really, really challenging, right? It's a really difficult time. And I can't read what somebody's just wrote, but it looks really important. I'm looking forward to reading that once I've stopped this. Now is the time for your entrepreneurial spirit to shine. The world out there is changing. It's changed dramatically. Seen the 9 months that we've all been focusing on a pandemic and worldwide disasters and all that, and then Brexit and Trump and Biden and all that kind of vibe. See, while we've been looking at that, the world's actually been changing underneath it. So see, actually, once we stop focusing on all that stuff and we land, we're going to look around about us and go, what the hell's just happened? Who's changed the set? So have a fantastic Wednesday and have a great day. And a small random act of kindness, holding ourselves back. If you feel like holding a door open for somebody, let's just hold a door open for somebody. If you feel like grabbing somebody's shopping and no running after in the street with it, just do that. Don't wait. Do not wait, because time is the most precious commodity we have, and we could utilise it for far better experiences than the experiences that we might be having. That's for sure. So have a wonderful day. Thank you very much for tuning in to Movember Men's Mental Health. And I was just saying to somebody last night, I actually can't wait for it to stop, because it's such a stretch doing this every morning. It is such a struggle. But as we say in the fellowship, if our message just helps one person, we've done our job. And you know, an interesting fact, I share this all the time. See, when you're sitting in the house all tight, full of fear, right? Doesn't matter what chemicals are going through your body, but there's loads of kind of very toxic chemicals going through our bodies, right? But see, actually, when we give ourselves, when we connect, we get oxytocin. Step 12, the 12-step process. Once you've had a spiritual awakening, well, working the steps and you carry the message to other people that are suffering, right? Now, that doesn't really apply to addiction. That can apply to anything. We're all suffering at some level. And we carry the message of hope, basically. When you can carry a message of hope, fundamental, forget about the fellowship stuff. When you can give yourself from a non-agonic place, a place of no need, you get fully oxytocin. Oxytocin, Google it. That stuff is pucker. I guess when we were all jumping about the Garden of Eden, right? I guess that's what we were full of oxytocin. And I can tell you right now, right, I'd have been a right greedy bugger back then and all, right? Because I'd have been taking double the amount everybody else was taking. Right, I'd have been sat up the back, like, geez, Mary, that never worked. That never worked. Give me a bigger cup next time. Right? Oxytocin is fantastic. You get it when you give. What's holding us back from giving? Claire, my beautiful friend, who's going to be working with me. Claire, you're going to be working with me if you're watching. Claire's going to be our mountain leader because she has qualified and I've not. And she's going to be joining Scouting About and joining the business. And you are going to have such an experience with her and I leading you on your quest. Scouting About, it's not join the adventure, it's join the quest. And have a great day. Wish you all the very best. Hope it's been helpful. 10-10 till we break again. Goodbye.